Hi everyone, my name is Timo Verlaat and I am a PhD student at Utrecht University. I will present a study today that tries to answer the following question. What works better in getting social assistance recipients back to work? Is that telling them what to do or having themselves decide what to do? Before I start, let me briefly say some words about social assistance. What are we talking about actually? Social assistance is a last resort cash assistance, which usually targets the long-term unemployed or people who have exhausted other types of benefits. In the Netherlands, the benefit is $1,200 a month for a single-person household, and that is 70% of the monthly net minimum wage. So this is the type of scheme that we are experimenting with. Now, what's the motivation for this study? Well, the current setup in social assistance is that you tell recipients what to do. You tell them how often they have to apply for jobs, how often they have to meet their caseworker, and what kind of re-employment trainings they have to follow. And you also monitor people and sanction them in case they don't comply with the rules. Now, that approach is obviously meant to prevent people from free riding. That means you want people to put effort into actually getting back to work instead of living off their benefits. And many studies also show that this approach can actually work. On the other hand, it is usually costly to monitor and sanction people. And next to that, it may harm intrinsic motivation or induce feelings of negative reciprocity. Also, there are some who argue that it helps to get people out of the scheme quickly, but not necessarily into jobs that keep people out for long. So we are interested in what happens if instead of imposing requirements, we give leeway to people and let themselves decide what to do. To answer that question, we ran an RCT of roughly 2 years with social assistance recipients in the Dutch city of Utrecht. We had 1 control and 2 treatment groups and roughly 190 subjects per group. Our control group was subject to the care as usual scheme. That means recipients had to look for a job, accept work, follow trainings, and meet their caseworker. And they could be sanctioned, of course, in case of non-compliance. In our 2 treatment groups, subjects received more leeway. In the first group, we eliminated all requirements, monitoring, and sanctions. That means subjects were given full autonomy and self-responsibility in what to do. In the second group, everything stayed the same, except that subjects followed a one-on-one counseling program, and that program was shaped according to their needs and wishes. Now, as social assistance is a temporary support scheme, our main outcome of interest is if people leave the scheme because they find paid work. And this is also the outcome I will focus on today. In the paper, we also look at other outcomes, such as the quality of re-employment or health and well-being outcomes, but I won't have time in this presentation to cover these outcomes. Now, what are our results? This figure shows our key findings. On the horizontal axis, you can see the treatment months. Randomization took place in month 0. And on the vertical axis, you can see the share of subjects that have earnings above the benefit level. Now, why do we choose that metric? Well, if you have earnings above the benefit level, you are technically ineligible for social assistance benefits. So we take this metric as a proxy for outflow due to paid work. You can see 2 graphs, one for exemption, one for control group. And these graphs are purely descriptive, obviously, but the findings I will speak about now are statistically significant at the 10% level. So what do we find? First, we compare exemption to control. And we find that exempting recipients increases the chances of having earnings above the benefit level. And for the last months, that increase amounts to 70 to 80%. For this group, we also find improvements in re-employment quality, but again, this is something you will find in more detail in the paper. Second, we compare counseling to control, and we see that effects are positive, but they appear to have occurred more temporarily and stagnate in the longer term. To sum up, our results suggest that a relatively simple exemption scheme that gives recipients full autonomy performs partly better and most likely not worse than the current scheme of requirements, monitoring, and sanctions. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you have questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to contact me.